All right, we are Saturday evening. I overslept, so the forecast is a little bit late. And I am sorry, I apologize for that. Overnight hours, we have taken a 5.89 X class flare, a X 1.5 flare. In between the two, we have had some M class flaring and only for a very brief time did we drop into the C class range. What does that mean? That means we're going to stay at a very elevated range once we get up there. These were very long duration CME or flares, so that means there was a CME release with them. And we had a very, very long duration M8.7 flare following those. And then now we have dropped down back into the C class flare. It's going to take a break or a breath. We're going to see what happens following that eruption. But if you've noticed, we tend to have a little point where it takes a breath, takes a beat, and then it pops back up with a huge flare. Let's jump over here, look at the sunspot regions. We can now begin to see the sunspots coming around the limb. We've got 74, 73 coming around the limb. 72, 71 is here. And that will be Earth facing tomorrow. The day after, it will click into the active zone. Those are both now beta class flares. So those have grown overnight. Right now, 64 is drawing all the energy off the surface of the sun and focusing it all down in that area. So it seems to be coming mostly from that area. So we have had 5 M class flares from that region, the largest of being the M8.7, and we've had 1 C class flare. We are continuing to stay at the same level of eruptivity, but it is now down 15 sunspots, down in size, so we're starting to see some degradation of this sunspot. It may be starting to show a little bit of it dying off, or it could just be taking a moment to reorganize. We're going to have to watch this and see. It is possible it could be dying off, or it is possible it could be reorganizing to make the circle around the sun. Um, 3670 is down 2 spots. Nothing here is screaming, hey, we're really in the eruptive phase. We did get 32 or 3672 that is just around the rim, has dropped a C-class flare. It's the first flare coming out of flare other than 64 in a couple of days. Our new sunspot region is 73 here. It doesn't show much likelihood of anything erupting. It is only an alpha class at this time, but it's only a baby. So it's only coming around the limb. We've got to hit the eruptive area. This is one that has been here last month, so this may be dying out, or it could be, just coming back to reorganizing. We'll have to wait and see. 74, it's there. Its flare probabilities are listed as 0. And then we have a region coming around. It's 3675. It is a beta class. It is saying right now it's not flare probable. And it's looking like it's starting to develop somewhere up here over 36. So it's looking like it's starting to develop right here above 36. So what does that mean? Why 30, it looks like it's above 64. Why do I say, oh, well, looks like 64 is calming down? Maybe it's not. Maybe there's just another sunspot region that's forming above it and it's going to get sucked down into it. or it's going to have a sunspot develop and spread into it and connect it and make it even bigger. Remember, this whole region around 64 and now 75 is in a highly eruptive phase. And 64 has already sucked up 86 or 68. And 68 is no longer there as part of 64. So now we have 75 developing, and it may get sucked up and drawn into the complexity of 64, and maybe that's where the energy is going from that right now. just at a guess, that may be what's happening, and that may be why we're seeing a little bit of a degradation on it here, is that it's starting to develop more spots trailing behind it, and there's starting to be a spread behind it. Now, I have not been able to, let me see if I can pull this one up. I have not been able to get up an SDO image. None of the SDO images have been up to pull. So here we are, 64, and they're saying up here and here is 75 somewhere. And that there's another image right here, and likely wrapped in here. Now we're starting to lose the coronal hole stream. We have a big filament that we saw some eruptive activity and some movement on last night. And it looks like we've had another big looping filament develop through here. That may, if we have more X-class flares in the next day or so, lead to more eruptive activity. And if it were to trail down those systems, it would still hit us. So even though it's around the limb, the official spot is around the limb, we could see eruptive activity trailing back around to the earth side, following some of these filament loops that are trailing behind it. So don't by any means think it's done. I don't think it is. We have some large filament groups that are up here around 71 and 70, and these have been eruptive in the past, and this is starting to uptick into, it went from an alpha class to a beta class, so this is becoming more eruptive. It hasn't released anything yet, but we're still 2 days out of hitting that eruptive zone. So it's going to be quiet for another 2 days, but then it may hit that eruptive zone and go crazy, just like 64 and 63 did. And we have all this eruptive stuff back here that is starting to filter in on our side of the sun and look really good. I want to show you this. Oh, let me see if I can get this enlarged. Oh, let me see if I can enlarge this. Okay. I want to go back here. We're going to look at the X-class flare that took off. Here is a view of that X-class flare as it erupted. Whoosh, there it goes. It's moving really fast on the flare. You can see how almost instantaneous that was. Let's go back and toggle that through. Look how instantaneous. And I really want you to pay close attention to this, how fast we got snow in the feed. Nice clear image, whoosh, there goes, and now we have particles. That is exactly how fast it can go to hit oh, okay, now I gotta get out of here. No, I didn't want to do that. No. That's exactly how fast it can go to hit the feed. Or to hit the satellites. Okay, looking at weather. Northern Michigan and Western Michigan, on the lower side you are clear. Mackinac is clear. Eastern side of Michigan may take a little bit longer to clear. You still have some high level and popcorny clouds up there. a little, maybe one swath of thick clouds that will move through as the evening goes. Let me see if I can set this into motion. That's going to rotate right out of there relatively quickly. It should be out of there in the next couple hours. Wisconsin, you're going to have a bank of clouds to the north. In western Michigan, you're going to have a bank of clouds that's going to come down in. And you may get some clouds down in southwest lower Michigan that comes in. Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, all that. You're going to be really clear. You're going to have a really good view. Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Nova Scotia. You're going to have some really good views of the aurora through the overnight hours. Not so much for upper Minnesota and the plains areas and the west coast. You have high thin clouds with some cloud cover moving in as we have another storm system moving into the plains regions. And let's look at what is coming for the Great Lakes, Michigan region for the next 10 days. Sunday, we will be partly cloudy in Michigan. Rain ending early on Sunday. Partial clearing late in the evening. So even if we're cloudy and rainy during the day tomorrow, we will start to see clouding or clearing in those clouds. We will have a light wind, and it will start clearing and lowering the wind and getting a little bit less. Should be a warmer evening. Tonight, I want everybody to know you're working with an extremely high humidity level of it, like 80% or higher. So look for auroras to be a little murky tonight if they're at lower levels. Everything lower on the horizon may be a little murkier or foggy or hazy because we have an extremely high amount of humidity. And humidity bends light. It separates it like it's being viewed through a crystal. So if you were to hold the crystal up to the light, it's going to bend those light particles and separate the red and the yellow and the orange and the blue and the green into their own separate channels. And so it won't appear to be normal. It'll be divided. Okay. We are going to be partly cloudy during the day on Monday, mostly cloudy Monday evening. So if we get anything today, it may affect viewing on Monday night because we're going to have mostly cloudy skies. Tuesday, we will have completely clear skies, and as we will Monday or Wednesday. And remember, just because 64 is going around the limb, if it were to let go with a big, huge, monster X-class flare, which Tamitha, our space weather teacher, and I both are kind of looking for a upper X-class flare. We both think this is perfectly capable of dropping an X-class flare as it goes around the limb. We're kind of looking for that to happen out of this sunspot region because it's so big and starly. The shock wave from that, when we get these really big flares like an X-class 5, can be massive, and they can reach around the sun and hit us with the shock wave. So it's a good thing it's around the limb now because it can go crazy. The farther around the limb, the bigger the X-class flare, we don't care. It's not going to hit us. But the shock wave will hit us, and that's fine because it'll give us great auroras without the danger of being wiped out. So it can go to town. The farther around it goes around the limb now, we don't mind. We're out of the direct line of fire. It's not so dangerous if it goes off around the limb. We actually have had several kill shots and several devastatingly large CMEs over the last couple cycles that have happened on the side limb and around the backside of the sun. It was fine. Didn't hurt Earth, but we did get the shock wave from it, even though in July 2017, the kill shot was directly aimed exactly away from us. It was such a large CME that the shockwave from it wrapped all the way around the sun, and it still gave us a huge auroral show, and it was absolutely perfect because we weren't in danger of being hurt, but we got the great auroras. So, best of all worlds, it continues around the limb and drops the big one. It's done its job. It's not going to harm us, hopefully now, and it can go to town. Or it's not going to harm us in a couple of days. So let it do its thing. We can take the shockwave. We now have 70 and 71 that have stepped up. They're no longer alpha class. They're up to B class. They're in a more eruptive situation. So those will be in the eruptive zone in the next 2 days. So if those hit off anything in the next 2 days, we could see that on Wednesday and Tuesday. And we have all that stuff coming on the incoming limb that can start dropping things as soon as 64 stops drawing all the power. So we have a lot of good things still coming at us. I don't think this is going to end. And then we have a line of from the 17th to well into the 25th of storm after storm after storm. And this could be a thunderstorm outbreak. And that, it's that time of year. We need the rain to keep things growing and keep things healthy. Not so much the tornado outbreaks, but we do need rain and showers and stuff to get our plants started on the right foot this time of year. So I'm going to leave it there. Most of you should see something. Let's see if I can get this shrunk.